And it's interestingly, I'm glad that you made the point of confidence, because confidence is one of those things that people assume you either have or you don't have. Someone is either inherently confident or they're not. And that's not the case. If you actually speak to anyone who is confident, just for the sake of the point, there is a difference between confidence and arrogance.
Definitely, yeah.
If we're talking about confidence, we shall move on to the point of arrogance after this and how that can actually inhibit your confidence and your performance. If you speak to someone who's confident, it's quite likely that what they'll say is, at one point I was terribly timid and I needed to, I've spent so much time in my head feeling that feeling and not wanting to feel that way that I've decided to change it. It's like when people become excellent communicators. I was listening to a podcast with Charles DeHig, who's a sort of super communicator, talks about how to become a good communicator. And he says, this is where I've sort of inherited this point, is people don't tend to just be wonderful communicators. They have come from a point where they didn't have that ability, in this case confidence, and they've decided to cultivate that. I think it's important for people to know that confidence is not something that is genetic as such. You can have a genetic advantage, but you can change the inner workings of your mind when it comes to the way that you perceive yourself. Are you someone who is inherently confident, or is that something that you've had to work on?
I think you've had to work on it. I mean, when you speak to people, like new people, I don't mind doing that. I think before I was just like, oh, do I? But then you realise it doesn't actually matter. They're feeling the exact same way. Yeah. So then you just got to flip it like that, and then you're just like, oh, they didn't want to talk to me, but neither did I. And then actually, you find out both of you want to do. Both of you do want to talk to each other. So it's. I don't know. It's just it is a mindset.
Totally,
it's a complete mindset. Like, you're thinking about the worries. Are they even going to like me walking up to them? Just block that. So what if they don't? If they say go away, okay, see ya. But most of the time, they're not going to say that.
I would wager all of the time they're not going to say that.
Probably, yeah.
I think we live in a world now where the amount of times that will happen, or that across the board, the amount of times that will happen is so negligible that you may as well consider that it won't happen.
Yeah, and if it does, so what? That person wasn't a nice person for you to go speak to. So.
Yeah, you have nothing lost from this person.
Yeah, so I think that's what... I think relating that to football as well, I probably need to put myself out there and just not be afraid of a coach saying no. Yeah. Saying, give me a trial, or do this, or... But it's the same with anything, whatever you want. Like, if someone wants to go get a job and you see this person have a job that you like, just ask them. Like, how... Even, like, don't ask them, give me a job, or can you give me a job? Ask them, how do I get involved? Or what do I need to do to, like, get involved in this job? And try and work on it yourself. Don't expect it to be, like, given to you. So, I think that's the way you've got to think. You can't just think... Everyone's going to say no to you all the time.
But even if they do, it doesn't actually... this is something that I've learned very quickly with the podcast, is because you've got to book people in, you have to, weeks in advance, make sure that someone's there so that you've got your podcast. I've had to ask anyone, or not anyone. I've had to choose people I would want to ask and ask them. There has been no... I'd like that person to come on, but I'm not going to ask because I'm a bit... If I've seen someone that I want to come on, I have to ask them because there is no other option. If I want this to work, I need to get over that. And as a result of doing that, I've had a lot of people say no. And it's been quite uncomfortable because you have to sell it in sort of saying why you want them to come on, why you think it'd be good for them to come on. You have to put some emotion into it, and as a result, if someone says no, even though always totally respectfully, it sort of knocks you back. You get that feeling of rejection. But what I've noticed as a result of having that and having to feel that way is my confidence has increased. And I think on the point of confidence, it's important to know that this is definitely something that you can fake it till you make it on. I've had a number of people now come in here and either post-conversation or mid-conversation, we've spoken of my anxieties of doing this. And people say, you look perfectly comfortable. You know,
you do.
You don't
look
seem
anxious,
as though it's something that's going on up there, but it is. I had my brother sit in this chair, and he didn't have the best of times. He was quite nervous.
He
was very
what's
nervous.
going on? We've never had this interaction, probably.
Exactly. I mean, and it was really a struggle for him. And we were speaking afterwards on the point of sort of my perception of this. I said, don't look at it as though I am cruising through this whilst you're sitting there suffering, because it's not. It's not that way. I am as nervous as you are. It's just different because I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And I think that point, the sort of point to be made there is, you don't have to feel confident to act confident. And if you act confident, then you will reap the rewards of confidence and gradually become
because people just assume you're confident.
Exactly.
They don't know what's going on up there.
Yeah.
It's just what you show, like, on the outside, basically.
It's self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
If you do it, it becomes you. That is the way that you are.
Yeah. And the more you do it, you just realise you're not even doing it anymore. Like, you'll feel like you're still showing those actions of confidence. Whereas, even though up there you might feel nervous and anxious, like, they can't see that. So
it becomes your natural state. And football's a lovely analogy on the point of life for that very reason. Of its sport is, particularly team sports, because of the fact that there are other people involved. You put a lot of emphasis on how other people are perceiving your actions, because you are a one entire entity. Your mistakes are their mistakes, and vice versa when it comes to your successes. I think on the point of success outside of sports, on the point of confidence, if you want to go and approach a woman, or you want to go and ask for that job, as you put it, or anything that requires you to step out of your comfort zone. The reason why so often we stay in our comfort zone is because we feel as though a mistake being made is going to directly negatively influence everyone involved.
Yeah, it's at the end of the world, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And the people, and even more saliently, we think that our efforts to do something that we thought was good will hurt someone else or make someone else aggressive, more particularly, towards us. So they're now negatively influenced, we're negatively influenced, and in our head we go, well, the risk isn't worth taking, because if it goes wrong, then all parties are negatively impacted.
Yeah.
Now, this is where, as wonderful as our brains are, they are very fucking stupid, because almost invariably you would find a position where it is a good idea for you to take a risk going and speaking to someone or whatever it is. The likelihood of it going wrong is actually very low, because most of the time how often in your head, unless you really cultivate this and practice this, do you think, I'm going to go over there and talk to that person and it's going to go exactly the way I want it to go, it's going to be wonderful? Never. We always look at it and go, oh, what if I fall over the stairs and walk out? We'll think of all the ways it could go wrong.
Yeah.
We never take any time to pay attention to the fact that your efforts might just go right. And the important point to make on risk taking is, our mind is so biased towards being risk averse as to avoid the implications of risk, that it forgets that within risk there can be tremendous reward.
Definitely.
And on the point of that, there is nothing that is more progressing than being a risk taker, in my opinion, because if you take risks, you're forever pushing yourself further out. And there's nothing quite like taking a risk, because it's pushing you unequivocally in the direction you want to go. If you're someone who wants to get better at talking to people, and you take the perceived risk of going and talking to someone, that will do you so much, that will provide you with a lot more growth than reading 3 books on how to approach someone will.
Yeah, because even if you're reading the books, you're not putting it into practice.
And it's practice, and this is the point, is repetitions. And back to the point of confidence, within risk taking and perpetually taking risks, as in consistently going and doing that, you cultivate confidence. And I think an interesting point to make is, I would perceive now that most people would look at me from the outside as someone who is confident.
100%. When I noticed that, the difference, and I know we talked about it earlier, but I didn't say this, the difference from when I see you and speak to you now to when you were at school, even though that we were still really good friends at school, the way you kind of carry yourself, even on camera, but like in person, is completely different.
Thank you.
It is different, and it's a good thing. It's like, you were still a nice person, don't get me wrong, you weren't a horrible person. You were just a lot more, like you said before, you were more shy. Just
more intrinsic.
Yeah, you were more like, yeah. But now, if someone came up to you on the street, I think they'd class you as an extrovert.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. This is something I'm sure to wrangle with for years to come, is that's not the case. You know, I'm not an extrovert.
Yeah.
But it is that when you sort of throw yourself in the deep end with the sort of baptism of fire essence or method of countering your insufficiencies, you can quite quickly look from the outside like someone who is the thing you're trying to be. But as I say, every single time I come in here, doesn't matter who comes in here, there will be a feeling of anxiety beforehand, because I'm on camera, it's something I want to do, it's important to me.
That's the main thing, I think. It's not only that you've done it so many times, you want it to be successful.
Yeah, it's important.
So it's important to you. So it's one of your main things that you want, so there's obviously going to be nervousness.
Exactly.
But a bit of excitement, because you want it to work, and I'd say it's definitely working, so...
I appreciate that. Interesting point on that, though. Have you seen the study of the difference between anxiety and excitement?
No, I haven't seen a study, but I know that I said they're definitely linked and stuff.
There is no difference in the brain.
Oh, really?
The perception that the brain has of, or the chemicals that are released when you perceive yourself to be excited are exactly the same chemicals that are released when you perceive yourself to be anxious.
You do feel that, though.
It feels the same.
The adrenaline feeling. You get the same feeling when you're nervous, or you're like, even like pumped up for something. Like you're getting the same feeling.
Well, think about it. It makes in your head, if you really actually sort of dissect both of those feelings, you're actually on both fronts. You are looking forward at something with anticipation. Now, in one of those perspectives, you're looking with apprehensive anticipation, as in, God, I've got to go on that stage, or I've got to, scared. And the other one, you're looking with excitement. You're looking with positive anticipation of, I get to go and do that thing. Yeah. But there's still, if you actually sort of consider excitement, it's still like an ambient feeling of anxiety as to whether the thing you're wanting to happen will happen. You know, think about any time when you thought you were going out and playing football, or you thought you were going out with your friends, or thought something nice was going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. You get that really deflated feeling.
Yeah, like,
because it's the feeling of anxiety being fulfilled the way you wish it was not to be fulfilled. It's very interesting to be aware of the fact that reframe is totally possible, because, and this is something that I've continually used and has definitely started helping me move in the right direction when it comes to my anxieties, is if something's important to you, you're likely going to be nervous about it going right, but you're also excited that you're doing it. If you can change your perspective on anxiety as to look at it from the lens of, rather than I'm anxious this is going to go wrong because it's important to me, you look at thinking on it on the basis of, I'm excited that this is going to happen because it's important to me.